What is up, y'all? It is last week on Instagram. It's our Tuesday series where we go back and we look at posts from last week that, we can only make a 4-second reel of that loops or provide a explanation in a caption that really gives you the overall idea, but really can't give you enough details to be precise. The way I always say it is, I can't, in that context of an IG post, I can't be the person where it's like, Dax promised me this will work and it'll work, right? So that's kind of what this is for. So we'll look back at our post from last week and dive into it. Let's get it. All right, so we have my IG. Let's go into our first post. All right, so we got some fly. All right, so, excuse me, guys. Just ate some popcorn. The butterfly breakout. So, in the video, I talk about how it's, you need to know your second to last kick, right? So, let's say you go 10 kicks. When you get to 9, you're going to separate, but you're still going to do your chest undulations and kicking your butt out. So, this is your first motion, then you begin that pull, boom, and you're into your first stroke. Now, if you noticed when I just did that, right, we're from the side, we're dolphin kicking, and then I'm here. That's your chest skull, right? So the same motion that you would be doing for our butterfly drill content is literally how we teach the butterfly breakout. Now, I teach it typically to athletes who are, I'd say, starting to get into the real part of club competition, like high level club competition. So 10, 11, 12-year-olds. Up to then, I kind of just let them break out however they want to. I want to see what kind of natural solutions they come up with. Maybe they come up with something that's cool and unique that I can use, right? So, yeah, just see what the kids got. So he's posted really well. 100 likes. Let's see if anybody's talking reckless. Oh, nobody talking reckless. Okay. On to the next one.
Now playing Reckless by Seth Anthony on Apple Music.
Oh, wow. Oh, the whole thing turned on to hear that. Okay. Close. All right, that was weird. Okay, let's get to the next video. All right, so we have Sprint Freestyle. This is Tori Husk. All right, so here's the main thing I want y'all to realize looking at this video, and that's how much it doesn't look like she's rotating. Right, like we see some, but it's not like it's a whole lot. Maybe to her breathing side right there, it looks like, a lot. But I think maybe this is where some coaches will say things like, keep the hips still, right? I think it's because just the camera angle. When you watch one of my favorite videos that just flies in the face of everybody saying, keep your hips still or whatever, blah, blah, don't rotate, is there's this video of Bruno Fratis, right? One of the fastest sprinters of all time. And he talks about how when he's sprinting, he'll do this and he'll connect his opposite hip. So pull, and then he's like, boom, boom, boom. And I think the importance of that is that it's forwards down the pull. And that's where that posture becomes such an important part, because if you have a posture, you can drive forward. Now, from the side, you can tell that it's rotation, but from the front, it doesn't look like a whole lot's going on. You see what I mean? So I think that's why the camera angle is what makes this look like what it is. And with our Rakely Technique Solutions library, when we look at technique, we try to get as many camera angles as we can, because usually the 3D model, on top of the math, right? But the 3D model does not look like what the 2D model is. Or it flies in the face of your conclusions of what a certain camera 2D angle is. Like this. And then as always, even if she's coming, the torso is coming at the camera, if they're upright like they should be as a sprinter, it's still gonna, you're still not gonna be able to get the right information, because what you see is it being driven by posture and the body line rather than actual camera angles. So when you pull, you bounce, or in our content, right, you would bounce, create that anchor, boom, and then once you have that anchor and your body's displacing, you're basically trying to slip past it. But that's also where you've heard me say, like, cross your body line, or you're going to side swipe through, bottom hip to back hip, or front hip to back hip. Like, that's where that comes from. So good sprinters are crossing their midline. And the ones who have really bad technique on that, Phelps falls in this category. You can actually see their correction because they won't rotate as much, but their hand will literally go sideways, or their arm is literally like pointed at the side of the lane line. It's not like they're on their side and it's pointed down, but it's still across their body. They're pretty flat and their fingers are over there. So sorry I'm breathing so hard, guys. My allergies are, got a funny story for y'all. So geez. When I was in college, I never knew I had allergies, right? So every October, November, we're in our hardest part of training. It would feel like I was breathing through a straw, right? But it's also the hardest part of our training. So I never realized my throat swelling shut, right, from allergies. So I'm just like, oh, I'm just working hard like nothing's going on, right? So I just swam through it every year. Swimming like I'm, or breathing like I'm swimming through a straw, like in a hard practice. And it wasn't until, and you're in the water, so any, drainage you have is immediately eliminated. So I'm not aware of any allergies at all because of how hard we're working and just the nature of being in a pool, all that snot and boogers floating around, right? Trying not to swallow them. Sorry. So when I stopped coaching or stopped swimming, I started coaching. I remember there was like an October, I think it was my second. So it was 2015, my second October. I started realizing like my nose keeps running. And I'm like, I've never had my nose run before in October. And I'm like, well, why haven't I ever had it run before? I was like, well, I'm in the water. I would never notice it if I was in the water, right? Because I'd be at swim practice. So I'm like, well, if your nose is running for no reason, that means you have allergies. I was like, dang, I think I have allergies. That's how I found out I had allergies. I was 25 years old. And then it made me think about the straw thing. And I've heard people say that about their allergies too. So I was like, oh, dang, like there was something actually wrong with me. It wasn't just working hard. Like, luckily I, made it out healthily, but the more you know. All right, let's get on to this next video. Oh, it didn't switch. Excuse me for a second, guys. I hate when it does this. Okay. So Jimmy Fegan swimming with his high head position. So this video is doing pretty well too. Now, Cam McAvoy, I say this over here, he has a lot of videos, especially with him doing power stuff like power towers or pulleys, where he's like, he looks like he's this in the water. And for those of you who don't know or haven't heard the story, so when I made the World University Games, Jimmy was there too, and he won the 100 freestyle. And he went like 48, like 99 or something. No, yeah, 48.99. First time going under 49. And the last, like from the flags into the wall, it looked like he was standing up. Like shoulders were underwater, arms were still coming out the same way like he is here. But I remember thinking like he's touching the bottom of the pool, he's walking. Like that's how awful it looked. But that's how, not how awful it looked, but that's how it is how awful it looked. But that's how upright with that big chest position he swam. And even as you look at this video, it looks like the chest is what's hitting the water first, not even his face. So it was kind of a moment, you know, I've been told my whole life, don't swim like that, so I didn't take it seriously. But it was always something that stuck in my head, right? Like that's odd, you know, and then you just shelf it for later. So I started coaching. This would then be like, let's see, that happened in 2011 when this happened. Jimmy was standing up. So I started coaching in 2014, and there was this team, Austin Trinity, that was coached by Coach Doug Russell. And all of his girl swimmers, the boys did too, but it was mostly like a team of girls. They all swam like Jimmy did. They swam with more exaggerated than this. Like if you think this is a high head position, like Jimmy is at least reaching over the bow wave, right? These girls were swimming like if the bow wave was here, they were like looking into the bow wave. Like that's how far forward they were. And then they were like reaching into the bow wave. And I remember their arms came around like sideways like this, like they were throwing punches. And that was kind of the first time, like back then, like athletes used to do boxing, particularly throwing haymakers as like a cross training type deal, right? And I never understood why, because this was never a swimming related motion to me, or that I would see like athletes doing on film. It was always more of a forward. And watching those girls swim, I was like, huh. And then it made sense with what Jimmy did, because Jimmy kind of also swam like that. And then I started putting together my senior year, 2013. I started looking for information on sprint freestyle. This is kind of the beginning of Rakeley was. Well, I'm not going to say that, but the beginning of me understanding sprint freestyle, right? So I'm looking everywhere online. There's nothing on sprint freestyle online back then. I still probably feel it's the same way now. But I found a video of Team Club Wolverine, and they had some like shoulder blades together, opposite hand stuff. And that's when, like I said, right, the haymaker stuff. What was I about to say? In regards to those girls. Oh, that they were like reaching, like they weren't reaching into the bow wave, like they were like twisting into the bow wave. So it was like all these things came together along with what I learned from David, and it all clicked at like the same time. And this became, at this point, I stopped coaching kids out of high head position. And I think a big part of it too is when they have a high head position, they don't do this, which makes them sink, and then they have to come back up with the air in their lungs. They naturally come around the side of their head, which keeps them level in the water. And that's why if you watch a lot of like really, really good distance per stroke style swimmers, their head's on the surface because they're not here like a gallop swimmer does every other stroke. When they sink under and then they pull, and then you'll see this one, right? Like Phelps, I've seen them do this all the time. They're here, and then they come up here because now their arm comes around the side and there's not that weight on top of their head. So, yeah, watching Coach Doug teach that, have all those girls doing that, and they were killing everybody. Like, Austin Trinity was balling out. So, yeah, that was kind of the beginning of me mastering all the sprint stuff. And Julian Cox, I remember she was like, I want to say she was 12, but I know she was at least 13 is a safe guess. She qualified for the Olympic trials. I think it was a random UT meet. Swimming like this. No streamlines. And Coach Doug was the only one, like, I've seen coach this, and the only one, like, out of all the coaches in Texas, right, you have South Texas, you have North Texas, Gulf, Border, and West Texas. Out of all 5 of those LSCs, or LCs, whatever. And then South Texas, out of all the coaches in South Texas, he was the only coach doing this, and his kids were swimming the fastest. And then all the girls did this, and they were all balling. So it was like, okay, we have an answer. So big time secret right here, guys. All right, let's get to our last video. Okay. So I want y'all to see, you see how he just like surges every time he breathes? You can see how he almost like jumps forward, right? So in distance, I actually had this conversation with a kid all people that I've seen do gallops, there's some amount of like head lift that goes on before they then turn and get low, right? And when they do that head lift, it forces their body to come here. Now, if they have a good anchor and they lift their head, they're going to be pulling their hips forward, right? They're going to pull their body through the water. And that's what you're seeing here with Mr. David, right? Because every time he takes that sprint timing stroke with the opposite hands, you can just see his body just jump past that anchor point. But what I wanted to talk about is how, because of that, the swimmer ends up on their side when they breathe. Right, I talk about it. Where is it? Right here. Sorry, we're gonna go back real quick. Right, so just say the net range of your rotation is 230 degrees, right? So you go from your 180, you're flat. Geez, sorry guys. It's like every year you get more out of shape and you realize and everything gets worse. Okay, so you're 25 degrees past flat and then 25 past the other way. So your net range is 230. So the body just knows, hey, I need to rotate 230. That means I rotated enough to both sides. Now, when you breathe, you naturally over-rotate a little more. Right now, going from here, your body still thinks it did this. So once you do 25% rolling back the other way, or 25 degrees, you still have another 25 before you actually get to flat. Okay? So you're already started eating into this, right? Because you already completed this. So you're now completed your 25, so another 25 chunk is going to come out of here, right? So this would leave you with 155, right? Degrees left to rotate. So there's nothing over here, right? You don't have any amount of rotation going over here on this side. So what you got to do is you have to feel like you're over rotating now, right? And this is where the over rotation is, because it's the difference from here to here, right? When I talk about the net range, your body experiences the difference from the 25 degrees past 180 one way to the 25 past the other way. But it calculates it from the 180, which it thinks is flat. So when you add the breathing, you're still going from your full extension one way to the or full rotation length one way. It's just now over rotated to the full rotation limit the other way. It's just less than your rotation, but the brain doesn't know that, right? It knows after I do 25 degrees, I'm at 180. And I need to do another 25 degrees now. Like, that's what it thinks. So you gotta, it's gonna feel like you're over rotating to fix this. You know, we got some good action. What was that? Oh my gosh, I thought it was something else. All right, guys, so that's our 4th video. Let us know what you think about it in the comics. You know, how do you feel about the gallop? You know, can you see how this breathing and then not over rotating kind of causes this weird like sling or weird like pinching recovery looking motions in your swimmers? That's kind of one of the major reasons why I started to fix it. What do you think about the high head position? You know, this also plays into the gallop because that high head position, that chest coming forward, is what allows the athlete to surge in that sprint timing. And if you want power, you need to swim with a higher head position. I remember telling somebody that, you know, everybody says, put your head down, be flat. And then you go watch a video of Ian Thorpe and he's like looking straight at the camera underwater, but his chest is really pulled through and he's just looking straight forward, right? And you can even see this in some of his race videos. Like, what do you think about that? What do you think about the high head position? You know, it's a very controversial thing, but the best do it. What do you think about connecting the hips after you make that catch when you're doing sprint freestyle? It's a little different for distance per stroke, but sprinting, it's its own separate entity in how you use it and when you time it. And then lastly, what do you think about the dolphin breakout? Kick the hands apart into a chest skull. Common butterfly drill. into kicking the hands out into your recovery. Let us know what you think about these topics, guys. As always, thank you for hanging out with me. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. Give us a like. Push us in the algorithm so we can get these explanations and this information to the people who need it, who are looking for answers, and like you and I are frustrated that we can't find them. And turn on the notification bell so you can be notified whenever we make new videos. And make sure, I almost forgot. I'm steady tripping over here. Make sure that you go check out the Night Swim podcast. Brought to you by Dax and Elvis. No, it's brought to you by super producer Nate. If you don't know who that is, Nate was the guy behind the scenes for Brett Hawk's podcast back when they were the #1 swimming podcast. So very wise guy in our corner who understands the podcast game. And we're on there giving you the night swim. Like, that's what it is. Like, we're not out here with the typical cotton candy takes on swimming. We're going to have the real conversations, the things you talk about with your friends on the back of the bus, the things you talk about in the locker room, the things you talk about when you're kicking and the coach can't hear you talking. Like, that's what we're doing. So, bring in the, putting the chocolate in the milk, I suppose. So, catch y'all later. Peace.